people ask me fairly regularly when I look back on my career with gloom, um, what am I proud of, or what did I think the best thing I ever did? And I always give the same reply. It was a job for the Save the Children Fund, um, which was designed to get people to leave more money to them in their wills. A piece of direct mail. And I, this is just a thought about your attitude to your work. Um, I was asked by the lady in charge of the fundraising for Save the Children if I could write a letter to get people to give more money to Save the Children Fund in their wills. And it's an interesting side note is that the lady in question was called Wendy Riches, and she liked my partner and myself so much that she decided she wanted to work for us. And eventually she ran our agency in London, and then after that she ran Ogilvy and Mather Direct in New York for a brief time, and then she joined a large mail order company, and I lost touch with her. Very successful woman. She asked me this question, and I said yes, because I'm just a girl who can't say no. I said yes, and then I was filled with panic. I had no idea how to set about it. I think that people who reply confidently, I can do it, are not always the best people. I always think that people who realise that this is difficult, it's not easy to do, that attitude of a certain amount of desperation is not a bad thing. In the same way that I when people talk to me about making a lot of money or starting a business, I always say desperation is a great help. If you're desperate, you'll try harder. So I had no idea what to do. And I may have told this story before, maybe not. I thought, who is likely to leave money to people in their wills? And I thought, this is something I recommend to you, I thought, who do I know that might be the sort of person, And I thought of my mother. And the reason I thought of my mother was that she was getting on. And I suppose she must have been 70, 71 at that time. I was also interested because she ran a charity for animals, and the truth is that if she's going to leave money to anyone apart from me, it would be to animals, but that's, some people can't tell the difference. But I thought of her because, I thought, what does she think about? And what she spent a lot of time thinking about was her funeral. So I thought, she thinks a lot about what's going to happen when she's gone, And I did something which I have been known to do in the past. I had a lot to drink. And I went for a walk with my dog. And I pondered, what the hell could I say? And then I started thinking about, what have you ever thought about what would happen to you after you've gone? And that was how the letter started. And I said something like, would you like to leave the world a better place than it was? Would you like to be remembered? And I thought about the people, and I said, would you like people to be happy? And if you've not been happy, because I thought some people haven't been happy, would you like to make sure other people don't suffer as you have? And then I said, I'm asking you this because I'd like to tell you something about Save the Children. And the letter went on for 4 pages. And at one point I remember I actually wrote that I didn't want any money. We're not asking for money, but you might like to know something about the good works we do. Anyhow, some years later I was being interviewed by a famous American copywriter who wanted to interview me for a magazine he wrote for, called, I think, Direct Response magazine. I can't even remember. And he asked me, could I think of anything I'd done that was any good, won awards and this, that, and the other. And I had to ring the creative director at Ogilvy and Mather, because by that time I'd left, and say, "Oh, Steve, can you think of anything I've done that's any good?" And he said, that thing you wrote for Save the Children is still running after 8 years. So I thought that must have done lots of good, and it actually brought in more money than anything else they'd ever sent out, and it got people to give their names for potential donors. The other thing I did, which I recommend to you, is I did some research. I did some research into how many people leave wills and how many people don't, and what it takes to make a will, and so on and so on. And I'm not here to go through the letter, because it wasn't tested against anything else, and we're talking about testing. What I am here to do is to show you the 2 envelopes in which the letter went out. And you can see there's one for everyone over 55, an important question that cannot wait, and some free advice. And for the other, do you believe in life after death? I wonder which you think did better. Which you think did better. Well, I can tell you that the one that did better by about 25% was, do you believe in life after death? But the purpose of both envelope messages, the only purpose of an envelope message, a friend of mine in America pointed out, is number 1, to contain the mailing, and number 2, to prevent the contents falling out when you open it. No, the purpose is, to get itself opened, actually, really. Get itself opened. And I thought both of these would get the thing opened, and they did both get the thing opened. And one of the problems was that the one that won, do you believe in life after death, actually went out obviously by accident, to people who it didn't. The person who was sent to had died, so it went to their relatives, and they were upset by it. So Save the Children never used it again. But there you are. It worked because I thought, this is a question that everybody would be, strikes home to everybody. Yeah, we always ask ourselves this question. So if you can find a question of universal interest, then you're probably likely to get readers. The other one I took as a safe route, and it was a very safe route because it ran for all those years, for everyone over at 55. So I singled out the people I was interested in. Notice I made it look like a stamp. Stamps should look like stamps. It has this feeling of haste, and an important question that cannot wait, and some free advice. So I wanted people to say, I wonder what the important question is, and what's the free advice. And in fact, the mailing ended up with an opening that said, I want to ask you a question which many people don't have the courage to ask themselves. Have you made a will? Yeah? So I flattered the people with the opening of the thing that eventually did the business. So there you are. That's another little example you might like to think about. What it takes to open an envelope. Maybe a question that people can't resist trying to answer or follow up, or something that singles out the prospect and promises something that people have to read on to find out more about. And please let me make the point that the sort of thing that is likely to make people open envelopes is also likely to make people open emails.